Hi. My name is Valarie Regas, and as you were told a long time ago, I'm a DevOps engineer at Salesforce, and I'm very excited to be back in person. I'd like to take the first little second of my talk to just applaud the incredible team who put in the amount of work it took to get us all here, get us fed, get us educated, and get us some socializing. Can we just applaud the team that throws this? Come on. Thank you, Chris. Wow, so we are living in a really interesting period in history. I don't know if y'all have noticed, but a lot's been going on the last few years. Since March of 2020, every person on this world has sort of taken a hit. We've all been impacted, and the tech community did not escape unscathed, right? We've been through a lot of changes, and so the title of this talk, Rebuilding Together, is referring to rebuilding this community and getting back to a place of contentment in this world. I would like to point out, at no point when I say rebuilding together do I mean going back to how it was before the apocalypse began, because that's gone. The before times are over. I am talking about rebuilding something beautiful from the ashes of what we've lost. This is an interesting talk for me because I'm going to get really personal and probably overshare a little bit about myself. And in related news, if anyone needs a content warning, there is going to be a brief discussion of suicide. And I know that you're really excited for my talk now. It's going to be so fun, right? Yes, can't wait. But I'm also going to give you some concrete, actionable tasks, some things that you can do in your daily life to help this community, help your colleagues, help your family, and more importantly, help yourself to rebuild. And in order to get started, we are going to go back in time to March 12th of 2020. So March 12th started out like any other day. My partner and I got up early to get our 3 children out the door. We had 2 to get on a school bus and 1 to get to daycare. And I loved our morning routine. It was finely crafted and honed, and I had engineered our morning routine for efficiency and sustainability. And we're crazy people who briefly considered having a 4th child, and I made it scalable. I made our schedule beautiful. And why would this excite me? Because before I shifted careers, I did 5 years hard time as a stay-at-home mom. And that was the longest 5 years of my life. For me, by the time 2020 rolled around, getting my children out the door put me one step closer to my bougie office, coffee in hand, conversations with actual adults about something other than infant bowel movements. Like, getting to an office and being away from being a stay-at-home mom was like going on vacation, more like going back to work. And then came March 13th, when the shutdown started. And then came the next 2 years of my life. To say, oh goodness, the shutdowns have been a lot. Who here likes remote work? Just by show of hands. Who likes, how nice for you. Who here likes remote work with 3 young children in your home? Anyone? Bueller? Oh, I've never had a hand raised. We're gonna talk after. I did not enjoy having 3 small children home. What did this look like, first of all? It looked like my productivity tanking. Let's just start there. Working remotely with 3 children was just a lot. And it looked like chaos, and it sounded like screaming toddler. At the time of the shutdown, my children were 10, 5, and 9 months old. It looked like all of us getting COVID at some point, and a toddler with COVID is just nifty. And it looked hopeless, and it looked like a constant struggle. When I say my productivity tanked, that's like saying the Titanic had a pretty rough maiden voyage. It was bad. I don't have a stay-at-home partner. A lot of my coworkers did fine, even with children, because they had a stay-at-home partner. I'm married to a software architect. So our reality was overhauling our dining room into 4 workstations for 2 kids on Zoom school and 2 people trying to make software. The baby was usually being held by one of us. Imagine how fun this is. Yeah, and if all 4 of us had to be heads down on a call, that was the baby in the baby cage. And I'm told that good parents call it a pack and play, but I call it what it is. It was a baby cage, and it was misery. Now, this is why I use speaker notes, because as it turns out, I prematurely made a joke about my productivity tanking like the Titanic had a bad voyage, and this is why I hate when technology goes wrong. I decided that if I was going to be forced to bring my work home and live this new existence, I was going to introduce DevOps principles into my home. And so what did this look like? Well, first, I sat down with my new coworkers, tiny humans, and made a list of requirements. What do we need in a given day to be our most productive and happy? Do we need faster internet now that we're all home? Do we need better snacks? That was my middle girl, her demand. Up your snack game, Mom. More frequent diaper changes. Now, the baby didn't request that, but we could smell it. Do we need more office supplies? What do we need? And I got to work on our first ever Regas and Wenzel family sprint. 1-week sprints. Sunday night was planning and retro, and we go over what went well this week, what went poorly, what are we going to change for next week. I ended up having to homeschool for a year, my oldest girl, which as someone full-time in DevOps, think about that reality. Sprint planning, Sunday night, she had to sit down and basically write out her own curriculum, because when would I find time to actually homeschool? She largely educated herself for a year and did beautifully. That's what we had to do to survive, right? To say that it has been a long 2 years, an emotional 2 years, is an understatement, living that way. And I have been fast to focus on what the pandemic has taken from me, right? It took the freedom to go where I want to go and to see who I want to see. It took my ability to get out of the house and away from my kids, and for the good of my mental health, to go see other adults in an office. In fact, COVID tried to kill me. It's tried to kill me 3 times now. The first time was the worst. It was 3 weeks. I was so weak. At one point, I was laying on my couch and realized I needed to use the restroom that was 20 feet away, and I wasn't sure that I was physically capable of getting to it. And I contemplated just staying there. But then I thought, if I wet myself as an almost 40-year-old adult, my husband will never look at me the same way, and I rallied. But I had to roll onto the floor and army crawl. But COVID didn't kill me. I survived. We need to take a step back and remember that COVID took something from us as a community. It took people from most of us. And that loss of human life, that is the biggest thing we're going to have to recover from and rebuild together. So what does that look like? Let's get to the concrete part. How do we actually go about strengthening this community and the world around us? Well, the short answer is it's going to look like putting people first and giving people the benefit of the doubt and extending grace. But I hate vague disclaimers and advice. They help no one. So we're going to get concrete. The first thing that you need to know is that you don't always know what's going on in other people's lives. In February of 15, I was driving home to Atlanta from Tuscaloosa, Alabama. I almost ran several cars off the road. I ran red lights. I was driving erratically. And I never should have been behind the wheel of a car. I got flicked off. I got screamed at. I got people shaking their fists, cursing my name when they didn't even know what it was. Those people had a right to be angry. I was problematic. I was a problem that night. What those people didn't know is what my day had looked like up to that point. That was the day I extubated my mother in Tuscaloosa ICU. And I had very little time to say my goodbyes, fill up some paperwork, and get myself safely home to Atlanta. Of course I was a distracted driver. That's a big day. Rebuilding looks like accepting you have no idea what's going on in the personal lives of your colleagues, of everyone with whom you work. So if you have a teammate that drops a ball on a work item, don't start with, hey, what's going on? This still isn't done? Look, can I get an estimate in today? Come on, what's wrong, buddy? It looks like saying, hey, I feel like maybe you're struggling. Is there anything I can do to support you in getting this done? Or checking in, hey, you know, it's kind of a rough time right now. Are you doing anything to take care of yourself? Hey, you want to grab a cup of coffee, virtually even? Extending grace looks like knowing that if your colleague is behind on work, it's probably because something bad's going on at home. And maybe it's something big, like their partner just got diagnosed with cancer, or they just had to put a pet down. Maybe it's not something big. Maybe, like so many of us, they gained the COVID-19 and none of their clothes fit, and now they're expected to go back into the office, and they're just burnt out about that. Or maybe they've just been living in a pandemic for 2 years, and they're burnt out and depressed, and it's hard to focus on work. Check in on them and extend them that grace to know that they're probably just wanting to produce quality software, but man, life's getting in the way. Fred Rogers, I love him. He taught me as a small child to be a helper. I do want to give a disclaimer. I'm about to tell you to be helpers. I am not telling you to be martyrs. I am telling you to always focus on your own self-care, and I don't mean take a bubble bath and get a manicure. I mean, make sure you're showering, you're eating meals, you're drinking water, and you're making your life as easy as possible. I like to throw money at my problems, like pay someone to clean my house when I'm overloaded, right? I'm not saying be a martyr. I'm saying be a helper. What I tell my children is if you can't help, you can't. But if you can help, you must. What does this look like in the workplace and in this community? That looks like if you have a more junior teammate, go ahead and reach out about mentoring and pair programming before they get so frustrated, because I can tell you, having been more junior when this shutdown started, it's hard to get mentorship virtually. Maybe it looks like you're getting towards the end of the sprint, you're done with all your story points, everything that you've pulled in. Instead of hunting the backlog, look at who has a lot of points outstanding and offer to help them. Because again, if they're falling behind at work, it's probably because they're overloaded at home. Be a helper. Look for ways to support those around you rather than just focusing on yourself. One other way to be a helper is to check in on people. And I know we all have a tendency to check in on the people who look sad. Check in on the people who look happy. This is probably the biggest takeaway I hope you get. Not long into this shutdown, I was exhausted. I was doing the work of a full-time stay-at-home parent, a full-time educator, a full-time engineer, and oh yeah, I'd like to work in a shower once a week or so. I was depressed. I was a wreck. I stopped sleeping, to speak of, and I single-handedly kept the Argentinian wine industry in business, which would be funnier if it were a joke. And I was not okay. I ended up getting to a place where I started to think, you know, the world might be better if I weren't in it. And I know that it would certainly be easier for me if I didn't have to live this life. And I came very close to acting on that more than once. Now, why am I telling you this? Because I gotta tell you, when I'm sitting at home thinking, all right, it's Friday night, how do I want to party? I'd like to get on a stage and tell people all my business. No, I'm telling you because no one noticed. No one around me noticed. If I had a meeting and I was too depressed to fake happy, I just left my camera off. But if my camera was on, my coworkers saw this Val. Hey, how's everybody doing? And because I am who I am as a person, I focused on cheering up everybody else. I was the one checking in to make sure everyone else was okay. I made the jokes. I was an online cheerleader. And no one noticed I was drowning on dry land. I ended up doing 8 weeks of intensive outpatient therapy at a center for traumatized women with complex PTSD like me. It's fun. It's like regular PTSD, but now even worse. And I was lucky that I work in an industry where I had the kind of benefits. I could take half days and go do this therapy every day. But only because eventually someone noticed. I think it was actually my coworker who asked me how I was doing one day, and I said, living the dream. And he said, Val, what does that even mean? I hear people say that. And I said, oh, I've never really thought about it. Well, that's white person for I'm on the verge of suicide. That's what it means. And it's true. Eventually my colleagues noticed, eventually my family noticed, and I got the help that every single person deserves. Check in on your teammates, the ones that visibly need it, and the ones that you think are doing so well, because you never know who's like Robin Williams, always smiling, Anthony Bourdain, always happy, me. You never know. Rebuilding our mental health together is the kindest gift we can give ourselves, and it will make us better citizens, better colleagues, and we will produce better software if we take care of each other in this way. Another way we're going to rebuild is to show gratitude. And I know that sounds so trite. I get so sad when people are like, you'd be less depressed if you were more thankful. No, it's not a lack of gratitude. It's a lack of serotonin. Be thankful. Some good has come out of this pandemic for me. My partner and I, we have had to really band together as team parent because we are outnumbered by team kid. We have had to reallocate all sorts of household tasks, the emotional labor. We have had to take up each other's slack around who has what meetings, right? Our friendship and our co-parenting relationship has never been stronger thanks to this pandemic. I've gotten to see a lot of firsts with my third kid that I wouldn't have seen if he'd been at daycare. That's huge. Because my oldest girl was homeschooled for a year, I got to choose her curriculum, and she got real US history instead of the whitewash nonsense we teach in public schools. That's a blessing in her life. Also, she learned how to sprint plan. Hello. I was only able to do that program really because we were working remotely, and it was an easier sell to my manager to give me half days for 6 to 8 weeks. And that program literally saved my life and is why I'm here. People who like remote work, here you go. It's really hard to tell someone after 2 years of being productive remotely that they have to be back in an office to be productive. You got a bargaining chip now. You got evidence. I have been able to live in elastic waist pants and not have to really get dressed. And that Zoom feature to touch up your appearance, I am so hot on Zoom, y'all. I love it. It is great. I wish I could just put that filter on in real life. There are some things to be thankful for. This pandemic has not just changed the way we work and the way software gets created. It's changed who we are as people, and it's changed how we think about the world around us. Right, 2 years ago, when I thought about how software is born, when I thought about my coworkers and business, I thought about, Scrum teams, synergistically creating future-proof solutions, and I thought about corporate jargon and nonsense, and that's not what I think about now. I think about me sitting cross-legged on my living room floor, trying desperately with ADHD to pay attention to the world's most boring meeting, and just out of the corner of my eye, I see my 9-month-old holding onto the couch. And for the first time ever, he got brave and took his first steps, and I got to see it. That's what I think about every sprint planning now, right? I think about driving to a park between meetings with my mobile hotspot so that my children might do literally anything other than be on screens 24/7 because the TV has to raise my children so I can get some work done. Think about that. That's our new normal. I'm thankful I work where I work at a company that recognizes that together is no longer our colleagues, our customers, and our company. Together now includes our partners, our children, our pets, our parents. Our work-life balance is completely different, and our coworkers are now our family and other people. It's different. I'm thankful to be a part of the tech community. I know everyone in this room will be motivated to do the things I've asked of you today, things I strive to do. Extend grace, acknowledge you have no idea what's going on in people's homes and what they're going through. Check in on people. Be a helper. Focus on other people after you put on your own mask. I know that if we try and do these things, we can rebuild this community. It's no different. And I get that it's scary. I just want to acknowledge this. It is scary to go to your boss and say, hey, I'm burnt out. Help me. I can't sustain this. It's even scarier to be transparent about your own mental health problems. Another reason I share my stuff is because I guarantee you after this keynote, at least one person will reach out to me and say, I had no idea other people were struggling. Can you help me find resources? To which I'll say yes. Yes, I will. It's scary to do these things sometimes, to be vulnerable and reach out to other people and check in. But I believe that each and every one of us is capable of being just as brave as my 9-month-old baby, and we can all let go of the proverbial couch and rebuild this community together. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Valarie. This has been an amazing talk and so useful. And I also want to say, I'm sorry for the lack of notes, and I don't think anybody noticed that you didn't have any notes. So you did awesome.
Oh, thank you.
We have some time for some Q&A. Did you plan on?
Yeah, I was not planning on it because I just shared all my mental health stuff with a bunch of strangers. So I was going to go hide under a rock and maybe like pull an introvert. But I am open to Q&A if anyone has any.
We have, and I'm sorry to put you on the spot here,
It's
but this
okay.
is such an important topic. I feel like it deserves a little bit more attention. So I'll pass the mic around and.
Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. Always happy to help.
Any questions?
Hi, Valarie. Not a question, just to say that was an awesome talk. Thank you for doing it. The past 2 years have sucked for everybody, and I think that's the most important talk that I've heard. Nice.
Oh, double trouble. I overshared and now I'm going to cry in front of strangers. It's a banner day.
Hey, thanks for sharing. I'm curious what advice you have about just further probing questions other than the how are you doing? Good, nice, move along. What other advice do you have there?
Yes.
Without going too deep and
Yes.
being sensitive.
Actually, you just saved me because there was an important chunk that ADHD that my speaker's notes would have reminded me of. So it is scary to ask someone how they're doing. The easiest way, if you really want to check in on someone, is to let them know you're safe. The easiest way to let someone know you're safe to talk to is to talk about your own stuff. Is instead of saying, oh yeah, I got blocked on this work item, I'm a day behind, just tell the truth and say, yeah, I'm really sorry, I was so burnt out yesterday, I really just needed to go work out and grab a shower, and I needed to do some things in my personal life, for my mental health's sake, I needed to do these things to take care of me, I will get this done today. You have just established that it's okay to talk about mental health with you and that you have struggles. That makes you safe for people to approach you. I have had several people when I'm at a meetup or in a work meeting, when I mention my mental health struggles, it does not fail. Someone reaches out and asks how I'm doing and then admits to me they're going through a rough time. That is the easiest way to check in on someone, is to let them know it's okay for them to check in with you.
No, I can follow that advice. I mean, pandemic's been rough, right? I can vent a little bit. People ask me if I'm doing all right. They see me with the cane, which isn't usual. I didn't have that before the pandemic. So I broke my leg since the pandemic, and I got a rod from my knee to my ankle. went through a divorce, changed jobs, all healthy stuff. People are like, no, really? And it's like, no, yeah, we're making progress. We're moving forward. Things are getting done. I'm out of the wheelchair, right?
Yeah.
But I know other organizers are dealing with loss and other, what's the right word for it? Adversity, I think is the right word for it. And it is important to talk about it. And a lot of people will give you yeah, I'm doing okay. And to your point, it's good to have friends you can vent with, right? So I just did a little bit of a vent. Maybe we do event open space later. I don't know. Might be good. Maybe not. But thank you for sharing today, Valarie. It was, really resonated with me. Good talk for the community. Atlanta, Georgia, Southeast, around the world. Our network varies in size from year to year, but glad you're here and glad you're a part of it.